It is now in order to consider Amendment Number 11, printed in House Report 111-106. For what purpose does the gentleman from Alabama rise?
Mr. Chairman, I have an amendment at the desk.
The clerk will designate the amendment.
Amendment number 11, printed in House Report number 111-106, offered by Mr. Griffith of Alabama.
Pursuant to House Resolution 427, the gentleman from Alabama, Mr. Griffith, and a member opposed, each will control 5 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Alabama.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will yield myself such time as I might consume.
Gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Chairman, this amendment would instruct state educational agencies on how improvements in indoor environmental quality can help reduce asthma and other respiratory illnesses in the classroom and in our children. Asthma has reached an epidemic proportion in our country, affecting 20 million of all ages, but children in particular. I have two good friends who lost children due to asthma-related attacks at school. We must do everything we can to help improve air quality for our students so no one else ever has to suffer this tragic loss. Almost 1 in 13 children the age of 18 has asthma, and the percentage of children with this illness is rising more rapidly with our preschoolers than in any other age group. Asthma is the leading cause of missed school days due to chronic illnesses, causing our kids to miss more than 14 million days of school. When our children are absent, they are no longer able to keep up, falling behind, and America can no longer afford this. Our children also get left behind when their teachers and school staff are sick. We cannot sit on the sidelines and handicap our schools by failing to address the detrimental effect of poor indoor air quality on our students' concentration, attendance, and performance in school. This is an easily fixable situation. The adoption of this amendment would help improve indoor air quality and better the lives of 56 million Americans who spend their days in elementary and secondary schools. Mr. Chairman, I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman reserves his time. What purpose does the gentleman from California rise?
Mr. Chairman, I claim the time in opposition to the amendment, although I do not oppose the amendment.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized.
I support this amendment. I encourage our colleagues to support the amendment, and I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman reserves his time. Gentleman from Alabama.
Mr. Chairman, I thank my colleague, and I am happy to yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from New Mexico, Congressman Teague.
The gentleman is recognized for 2 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I rise in support of the Griffith-Teague amendment to H.R. 2187, the 21st Century Green High Performance Public School Facilities Act. I'd like to thank Chairman Miller and Chairwoman Slaughter for their help with this bill and on this amendment. This amendment is about protecting the health of our children. In my district, schools are oftentimes surrounded by sand and dust. When the wind comes, which is almost every day in New Mexico, this sand and dust is picked up and becomes a part of the air our children breathe. These particles can cause asthma attacks and can give them other health problems. Under our amendment, schools would be able to work on facilities to mitigate the amount of dust and particles in the air. Our schools must be places where the health of our children is protected. Our kids should not be subjected to dust and other particles constantly being blown in their face. The air they breathe should be clean and free of contaminants. I think it is important that this bill provides schools with the resources they need to help lessen this problem and protect the health of children. That is exactly what this amendment does. I urge my colleagues to support this amendment to H.R. 2187 and the underlying bill. I yield back my time.
Gentleman yields back his time. Gentleman from California.
I continue to urge our colleagues to support this amendment. I appreciate the gentleman offering it and yield back the balance of our time.
The gentleman yields back his time.
Mr. Chairman, I thank my colleague from California and would yield a minute of my time to Mr. Andrews of New Jersey.
Thank you,
recognized for 1 minute.
Thank the author of the amendment for yielding, Mr. Chairman. On behalf of the committee, we would urge support of the amendment. Not only does this amendment do a lot of good for children and teachers, it does a lot of good for the health care system. 75% of health care expenditures in this country, as I'm sure the gentleman knows, are attributable to chronic illness, and 4 chronic illnesses are accountable for 80% of that 75%. Among them is asthma. So by this very well-crafted amendment, not only is the gentleman improving conditions within schools, but he's making a good first start toward dealing with the problem of the health care cost explosion here in our country. We commend a yes vote, and I would yield back to the gentleman.
Colleague from New Jersey. Mr. Chairman, I ask that my colleagues support this amendment and the underlying bill, and I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman yields back his time. The question is on the amendment offered by the gentleman from Alabama. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. Gentleman from Alabama.
I request a vote on this amendment.
Pursuant to Clause 6 of Rule 18, further proceedings on the amendment offered by the gentleman from Alabama will be postponed.